My name is Melene Rossouw and I'm from Cape Town. I'm a lawyer by profession. I hold an LLB degree as well as a master's in law, specializing in the area of public and constitutional law. I'm currently a gender and human rights activist, as well as a consultant and strategist. So we know that high-level policies must filter down to the communities, because that is where the real change happens. Not by these women speaking at these, high-level panel discussions, etc. It's going to make absolutely no difference to the woman in the street. That is exactly why we started the Women Lead Movement, which is my organization. And we work specifically at grassroots communities with women in those communities. And we educate them, not only about the existing laws like the Domestic Violence Amendment Act, about protection orders, about human rights, the Constitution, but what gender-based violence is and how they can become change agents. I think for me the 1956 march in particular was the first sign of women from all racial divides coming together and standing together for a particular cause. Obviously, the context of the 1956 march was during the apartheid era. And so the purpose of that particular march was to really show their disdain in the oppressive laws of the apartheid system, and I think also the dismantling of the oppressive system and the impact that it has on women in South Africa. The issues of women was the same in 1956, obviously not under the apartheid. We don't have apartheid anymore. But the fact that we are still economically oppressed, the fact that there's still political inequality, social inequality, inequality in health and education, there's absolutely nothing to celebrate. I, for one, do not celebrate Women's Day for the same reasons that the women are celebrating it today, for the 1956 march. Because our issues are so entrenched and so pervasive that I think the reason why many women are not celebrating Women's Day in the way that society wants us to celebrate it is because of the fact that our challenges have significantly evolved. In government, in private sector, in civil society, we still see men leading the charge. They still have the power and the influence to make certain decisions. They decide what should be done, when it should be done, how it should be done, and at what pace gender transformation should take place. That is why it's so critically important for men to understand why it is important to promote and advance gender equality. Gender inequality is not just the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do. Now, the fact that there's women represented on Parliament or in Parliament and in the executive does not mean or does not translate to direct changes for women on the ground. You see, you can have representation, but if you do not have a voice, it makes absolutely no difference. Obviously, the big issue is the patriarchy. And patriarchy is deep. And patriarchy has had the effect of separating or giving women certain roles and responsibilities and men. And with those roles and responsibilities, there was rules and resources and power that was given to each one of them. And that had devastating impact. So we can talk about survivors of gender-based violence and support that we give to victims of gender-based violence, but the real problem is uprooting and disrupting patriarchy. If we had women that genuinely represented the interests of women in those positions of power, there was no need for us to have protested in order to get a national strategic plan on the table. The plan would have been on the table. So when I saw those images of the 2019 protest that took place in Cape Town after a series of murders that took place not only in Cape Town, but I think in various parts of South Africa, I was absolutely shocked by the fact that the same police system or South African police services that is supposed to protect women are now brutalizing them. And the purpose of the protest was against gender-based violence. I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised, because that is exactly the reasons why many women do not want to go to police stations to report cases. It's because of that lack of respect, that lack of understanding, the lack of empathy for women in these particular situations. And it was predominantly men who perpetrated this kind of brutality against those protesters at that particular protest in Cape Town in 2019. I think my mother obviously was the biggest role player. My mom was a single parent. She worked as a teacher. She did part-time studies, having 2 children. She worked odd jobs. But she was a great supporter of my sister and I. I mean, we didn't grow up very rich, as you know, very modest lifestyle. But my mom always encouraged us regarding getting a good education. I think that was first and foremost the most important thing for us. And so from a very young age, we knew that obviously due to circumstances that we didn't have the best of everything. But through education and working hard and being dedicated and determined and having the drive to succeed, that we will be able to do that. But because we had a very strong role model, which is my mother. You see, there's only so much work that civil society organizations can do. Okay, we can do a workshop and then we leave the community and then we say, all of the best, we hope everything works out here. But it is what you leave in that community. And I believe that in order for us to see widespread change, we need to create an army of social change agents in communities to drive the change consistently. And the only way that we can do that is by empowering not only women, but men and young people in communities to drive the change.